Khoo Jie Suan from Section 2, and then I'm going to talk about the association rules in data mining. Alright, so what is association rules? Actually, association rules is a simpler if-then statement that helps us to find out the relationship between two independent items. So, in short, it's an if-then relation. It shows the if-then relation. So, for example, like if a man go into a supermarket and then he buy a beer, then he probably would buy a diaper. So this is a very simple example of if-then relation. So it's actually the possibility that if A occur and then the B will also occur. So this is all the association rule about, which is connections and the possibility that if A happens and then B will happen. So there's association rules. And then the application of association rules, for example, is being applied in the bank sector, which because bank have their credit card business, and then because different people, different customer group might prefer different terms for the credit card. So the bank might use these to find out which kind of people would prefer what terms, and then they have having the credit card with that terms, and then they promote it to certain targeted customers. So that's how they use these association rules to find the connection between what kind of people prefer what kind of card, what kind of terms. Yeah. And then the next one will be one of the most famous one, which is applied in market sector, which is called market basket data analysis, which is aimed to find out the connections between the items that a customer buy in a supermarket. So, for example, nowadays we can see that those things that are related to each other are all being placed at the same rack. For example, if you go for you buy for a torchlight, and then you might probably found a battery at the same rack, at the same rack in the market. So this is how they use it, because the association rule is used to find out what is the possibility that after the customer buy product A, for example, like a torchlight, and then will he go for the battery. So if they find out there's a connection between these two items, they are going to use it and then place it at a very new place, so that to attract the customer to buy it. And then the example of association rules, which I think might be the YouTube video recommendations, because after you watching a video and then below it they will have a recommended video. So if you click on it, and then the YouTube might think that there's a connection between these two videos. So for the next people who watching the same video, they might also get the same recommended video, because they think that there's a connection between these two. So they will put it for recommended video and then attract more people to watch it. So that's another example for association rules. So I think that's all for association rules. Thank you. Khoo Jie Suan from Data Mining Section 2. So now I'm going to talk about the frequent pattern mining. So what is frequent pattern mining? Actually, it's an analytic process that we use to find out the frequent occurring patterns or association between two data sets, which means it also have a different name, which is association rule minings, which basically is about the association rule that I have just talked about. Frequent pattern mining is actually the process that we've used to find out the association rules. So basically, it's a process that we use to find out the if and then relationship between two items. That's it. And then for the implementation, there are two terms that we need to use in this frequent pattern mining, which is support and confidence. So for support, it indicates how frequent the relationship appears in a database. So it's basically how frequent an item appears in all the transactions. So for the example that I given above, so we can say that the milk and also the bread have the highest support, because we can see that the milk appear 3 times and also the bread appear 3 times in all the transactions. So we say that milk and bread have the highest support. And then for the confidence, is actually about the numbers of the relationship exists and found to be true in all the transactions. So from the example above, we can say that the relationship between milk and bread have the highest confidence, because you can see that the milk and bread appears 3 times. So in customer 1 and 2 and 3. but the duration for the other, for like milk and cereal, might only appears for one times, and milk and eggs also only appear for one time. Sugar and egg appear only for two times, but then milk and bread, they appear for three times. So in customer 1 and customer 2 and customer 3, they also buy milk and bread, so you can say that it has the highest confidence. So that's the terms that we are going to use in frequent pattern mining. And then for the rules, so for frequent pattern mining, they only consider those transactions which meet the minimum support and confidence. So basically, only the transaction which meet the minimum threshold support and confidence, which is already predefined. So yeah, and then all these transactions are being gathered and then form a frequent item set, and then they are going to generate the rules and find out the connections between the items from the above item set. Yeah, that's it for the frequent pattern mining. Alright, thank you. To Jason from Data Management Tools, and now I'm going to talk about a priori algorithm. So a priori algorithm is one of the most classic and important algorithm in mining frequent item sets. So basically, this algorithm will take multiple passes and of the database, which means it will keep looping around and then until it finds the most frequent item set in the database. So that's what a priori algorithm is. And then you can see that for the first iteration of these algorithms, each of the items in the database will become the candidates for first item set. And then after that, only those who equal to or greater than the minimum support will bring to the next iterations. So for the next iteration, which means is the second iteration, so the second item set will be formed by a group of two by combining the item and also itself. And then after you form the second item set, it will check again to see if that item set over the minimum support. So only those who equal to or greater than the minimum support will be bring to the second iteration, and then the whole process will be like going again. So it will keep looping around until it find the most frequent item set, and then it will stop. So what makes this algorithm different is because it has two different properties. So the first one is appropriate algorithm property, which means that all the non-empty subset of a frequent item must be frequent, which means the subset of a frequent item set must also be frequent. And then the other one is anti-monatomic property, which means that if the system cannot pass the minimum support test, which means all the support tests will also not pass the test, which basically is used for pruning process, which means that if an item doesn't meet the minimum support, and then the superset of it will also fail to do so. And then what's the advantage of this algorithm is the first one is because it's very easy to implement, and also and the second one will also be one of the most simple and easy to understand algorithms among the others. And then the disadvantage of this is also obvious because it requires many scans for the database, and also this high amount of scanning of database will also require because after it scans, right, after one iteration it will generate candidates, and then after one iteration it will generate candidates again. So it will have produce a high amount of candidates, and this will require a large memory space for the executions. And also because it scans so many times and also require the high memory space, so definitely it will make the execution time much more longer compared to others algorithm. So this is the advantages of the a priori algorithm. So I think that's all from me.